everybody, welcome to the 8th episode of the podcast, Howard University, the Mecca. It is now my sophomore year, and things have changed a little bit. Now, if you remember in the first episode that I shared with you about Howard University, my freshman year wasn't really that great of an experience starting out. It was kind of rough. I had a really hard time adjusting. I didn't really find my circle of friends right away. There was a lot of things that were going on, and it wasn't really the best experience. Now we're fast forwarding. At this point, I've just finished the summer after my freshman year of college. And hey, summer was really great. And mind you, I was working really hard that summer because this is when I was really teaching all these different competition teams for dance. And one of my teams had qualified for the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association Dance State Competition, which was going to be later that spring. So I'd really been working and coaching with them. And, I had a really great summer. And so now it was moving day. And moving day was very different from freshman moving because this time I was doing it by myself. My dad wasn't coming with me. It was kind of like, we helped you the first time. We think you kind of get it now, so, you'll be okay. And so, I got on my plane, I boarded, and, I went straight to Howard University, and I went to a building called Meridian Hill Hall. Now, Meridian, also known as MDOT, aka the Ebony Sex Palace. Meridian was its own world. It was its own planet. There were so many things that would happen and go down in that building every day. And this was a building that was 8 floors. It had about 600 to 700 residents, and pretty much all of these residents were sophomores, minus the second and third floor were usually, mixed and mingled with a few freshman girls at the time. And so, goodness, Meridian, there's so many stories. Now, the thing about Howard at the time, if you were a sophomore, there were a few places that you could stay on campus. If you were an athlete, you could stay on Cook, which was one of the nicer dorms on campus. You could also go stay in Slow, which was on the other side of town, back on the side by the hospital, and then there was Meridian, where most of the sophomores went. Meridian wasn't on campus. Meridian was in Columbia Heights, which is a part of DC, which is super gentrified now. But Columbia Heights is a part of the whole Embassy Row, where you have all of the big embassies and everything on 16th Street. And then Adams Morgan is not too far. And there was just a lot going on in that area at the time. So Meridian was kind of like an escapism from the main campus, but it was still nice. And you still had the college environment at the same time. And so Meridian was Meridian was lit. I feel like I got my footing after living there for 3 years. But I'm not gonna lie, they also needed to Lysol that entire building down after half the stuff that went on up in there. I'm just saying. But anyway, so what made Meridian really jump was the fact that it was co-ed. You know what I mean? It's one thing when you're a freshman and you're in a dorm where it's only your gender. Same thing for the girls on the other side. All the freshman dorms at Howard were gender specific at the time. Drew Hall and Carver Hall were for the men, the Annex and the Quad were for the women, and that was pretty much it. But then when you got to sophomore year and you got to Slower, you got to Meridian, now it was like there was a blend. And because Meridian was a bigger dorm, everybody would apply to Meridian. And so everybody and their mom, or everybody who was somebody, usually stayed in Meridian at the time. And so it was just, I remember the very first day that we moved in, like that same night, the hallways were lit. It was like, like the let out at the club. That's what every floor was like. No matter what floor you went on, it'd be like 30,000 people in the hallway. Everybody got their doors open, people playing music, folks sitting in the hallway chilling, everybody flirting, clowning, doing whatever they got to do. And of course, it's the first week, so everybody got on their best outfits. Everybody's trying to be seen. Folks was probably hooking up. All kind of stuff was going on that first day. I remember for some random reason, that same day was also the finale of Making the Band with Day 26. And so I remember half of us were in one room watching that. Like, just a bunch of things were going on. Like, it was a very great experience. My sophomore year is when I really found my footing and things started to align and make sense, especially with the academics. Like, when I tell you I did so well my sophomore year, like, my grades were so good. Just thinking back, it was a good time. Because if you remember in the last episode with freshman year, I did terrible. Like, it was so bad to the point my mama had cussed me out. Like, listen, you bring these grades back again, you ain't going back. Like, you over there wasting money. We spending all this money for you to go to the school and you doing lackluster. So sophomore year was good. And I think what it was is that because I had such a struggle freshman year, I came with a totally different mindset when it was time to start my sophomore year. Plus, all of my classes I really, really enjoyed. A lot of my classes were centered around things that really sparked my interest this time. So, I had like the black politics classes, and I had African systems of thought, and I had black diaspora classes, which I think some of those classes pretty much laid the foundation for the current mindset that I have now as far as how I see the world with a lot of things. And, there were just so many classes and black political theory, and God, there were so many of them. I can't remember half the names of the classes, but I did really well. I enjoyed the subject matter. African American rhetoric was a really great course, really dissecting the verbiage and the discourse that comes out of some of the literature from the 1800s and the 1900s from black writers. Like, it just, man, when I tell you, like, the class is just, I really had like a great awakening my sophomore year. And then politics played a major role that year because, there was a big presidential election that was going to be coming up really soon. And so at the time, Barack Obama was running for the Democratic nomination and Hillary Clinton was also doing the same. And when I tell you to be a fly on the wall in my black politics class, it would be the best arguments, because one thing about black folks that I wish people would understand is that we are not always monolithic in everything. And a lot of times we see the world through many different lenses sometimes. And in that class, I swear you had every personality known to man in that classroom. So you would have like the black feminists in there going off about how, this, that, and third. And then they would get to arguing with the guys that were like kind of like the Hotep and the We Was Kings. Like, they would get to arguing with the black feminists girls, and they would be like, no, because the black man, y'all always been the weakest link every time. All it takes is to get one white girl to shake something in front of you and y'all are done. Y'all are the weakest. So them two would get to arguing, and then you'd have the one kid in the classroom who was a black Republican, and they start arguing with the person who was overly liberal and really left-wing Democratic, and then you had the atheist in there jumping into the argument, and then you had the person who was just a free spirit and didn't follow politics and thought it was all stupid, and they're in the argument. And then it was like, and then you got the person who who identifies with their gender before they identify with their race, arguing with the person who identifies with their race before they identify with their gender. And I mean, these arguments would just be so intense in this class. It was the funniest thing. And I mean, they really used to get it in. And I was just as bad, because by the time I had been going through like the black diaspora classes and the Pan-Africanism and the African systems of thought, I was on a Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, the man trying to hold me down. Like, I was right in the mix with that mess. So I'd be right in the middle arguing with everybody else going in. And that's okay, because when Barack Obama get in there, he changing all this shit. Like, just young and naive. But that class used to be lit. And what I liked about a lot of the courses at the time is that Howard courses and professors, they encouraged you to branch outside of the university, go into the city, go and do different things. And so I was always at the Rayburn building my sophomore year, walking around and getting to meet different people who are in Congress and everything like that. If the CBC, aka Congressional Black Caucus, was doing something, I tried to go to some of their events and stuff if I could get in. It was really, really great. But anyway, let's jump into some of the actual stories of sophomore year. I have to start off with the sniper situation. So at the time, a lot of campuses were very, very antsy because Virginia Tech had just happened, if you remember that big mass shooting they had. And so one of these random days on campus, there was just a lot going on at the same time. Because Howard University is an open campus and anybody can just walk on it all the time, sometimes you get visitors who just like to come to campus and do things. So at that time, you had this group of like Amish people. I don't know what they were, but they had on clothes like Amish folks. Like, they were dressed like, if you've seen that movie For Rich or For Poor with Tim Allen and Kirstie Alley, like, that's exactly what they looked like. So there was like 30 people on campus who looked like that, and they were carrying these anti-abortion pamphlets. So, they would pass you the pamphlet, and then as soon as you open it, you saw all kind of body parts and stuff. I'm like, okay, you know what? And so in that same speech, next door to campus was this place called Cluck You Chicken. And Cluck You Chicken, it's like a nail salon or something now, but it was kind of like a fast food takeout spot on Georgia Ave. And so they used to always try to, have their marketing campaigns. And then in that same breath, at the same time, there was some kind of alert that had went out where they had said that there was a sniper on top of Meridian, which was my dorm. And so I was on campus at the time, and the message got mumbled, and this is right around the time, I don't even think the iPhone was out yet, but I think the BlackBerry was out. Smartphones were kind of becoming a thing, and so some people were hearing some things and some people were getting messages, but a lot of people were really confused. And so what it turned out to be was like, everybody just heard there's a sniper shooter, run. And so you'd see the people from Cluck You Chicken trying to pass out their little coupons to get you a free 10-piece or 2-piece, and people were sprinting away from them. And then at the same time, the little Amish people who were walking around on campus, you just saw them with cloaks and stuff, and we didn't know what the heck they had up under them things. So we were like, people were just running, acting crazy. It was the funniest thing. And then the funniest thing is, like, Meridian was not close to campus. You needed to take a shuttle to get to it unless you wanted to walk 8 blocks. And so everybody and their mom was like, what do we do? Because folks wanted to just run home, but the shuttle wasn't there, so you stuck on campus. Like, that crap was hilarious. Everybody was tripping, and then when it finally got handled, everybody was fine. because I know when I got to Meridian, everybody was like panicked because half the people in Meridian thought somebody was on top of the building with a sniper shooting people. And I mean, there was like the news and everything. Like, that crap was hilarious, but I mean, we were all shook at the time. Like, I was like, man, I mean, I think I would have survived. That would have been good, but goodness, thank God it was just a scare. And then there was Res Fest. Now, Res Fest was like an Olympics between all of the dormitories, and at the time, I think there were 9 dorms that participated, and Res Fest used to be a really, really huge extravaganza on campus, especially for freshmen and some sophomores. The juniors and seniors, they could care less at that point. But Res Fest used to be to the point where it was almost as big as homecoming, at least my freshman and sophomore year. And so what it was that you had all of these different dorms, and they would compete in a bunch of different activities throughout the week, and they were all competitions. And then, you know, the dorm that won the most had bragging rights for the year. And that was pretty much it. But there were a bunch of events. So there was like flag football, and there was basketball, and there was Family Feud, and there was trivia, and there would be chess, and there would be, you know, all these different activities, and swimming. But then the main events that really got everybody just cranking were the stroll competition, the dance competition, and the step competition. Mainly because the step competition was like the one thing, the one way you could step and be almost important on campus without being Greek yet. Because most people at Howard, you couldn't be Greek until after your sophomore year or during your sophomore year, because you couldn't pledge as a freshman. I was never into Greek life, so I didn't really care. I just wanted to perform, to be honest. And so I did dance. And actually, I did dance the year before, too. My freshman year at Drew, we had won 3rd place for the dance show. That was a story in itself. I don't even feel like going back to rehash that mess, because I feel like they set us up. Like, the way that the dance thing was set up, it was like you would have your main piece where you would perform your main, you know, routine, and then they would have a battle round where you would battle with the other teams that made it to the next round, and then eventually you would win. And so what we were never told, at least when I was at Drew, was that there was even, the songs were pre-selected. We had no idea they pre-selected the songs and gave them to the dorms. We thought the DJ, you know, when I think of a battle, I just think DJ scratches the music and y'all go out there and you kill it. And so we never got the memo. Nobody gave us the songs that we were supposed to battle to. And so all the other dorms had these choreographed battles. I'm like, what kind of battles? Wait. I mean, like, they knew the songs that they were getting and everything. We didn't get none of that because our person who was in charge of us was pledging at the time, and we only saw him all of 2 times in 5 months. And so I guess he was the one, you know, responsible for getting the information to us, and we were just kind of left in the dust. So we initially were in 2nd place, and then we dropped to 3rd place by the end of the battle round because we got knocked out. I was so pissed off. I was like, this is some bull. That was also the very first time I had ever been booed in life. And really what it was is the dorms were so territorial that once you knock somebody else's dorm out of the competition, everybody in the audience who was supporting that dorm would just boo you just because they were pissed off that the team wasn't in anymore. And so that was the first time I had ever been booed with anything. And I was like, are they booing me? That's not nice. Like, my feelings were so hurt. Like, I was like, how dare they? Plus, I was already pissed off that they set us up and we went out there without any, like, we weren't even prepared. But the good thing is, like, the crew that I had, especially like my friend Don, like, he was a breakdancer, and then my thing, I was kind of more of the choreography, hip hop, street type of thing. And then 2 of the other people that were in our group, they had theater training and everything. So it was kind of a really interesting blend of the technique and styles we had. It was like 6 of us, and so, you know, that was that year. But anyway, sophomore year, moving on. This year was a different year, and so I had a group of 14. It was 14 of us on this team, and this was a co-ed team this time instead of an all-guys team like the year before. And I mean, we were actually a really, really good team, but when I tell you there was so much drama, and there was drama because Res Fest was just so serious to freshmen and some sophomores. Like, we took that crap so serious because I remember the year before, after everybody had won the whole thing, there was a lot of drama. Folks were still mad. I mean, folks were showing up outside of people's dorms ready to fight. There was a college radio station where they had like a call-in session so people could call in and vent about what they're mad about. So folks would start having the arguments on the radio station. Folks were crying. I mean, it was, and even Facebook was hilarious at the same time. Like, I remember the quad. The quad was like the biggest dorm on campus. It was a freshman girls dorm, and the quad was pretty much, it was expected that they would win the dance competition because they had all these girls, and then, you know, and I mean, they had these little hoodies that said champion on it. Like, they knew they were gonna win this crap. And so Cook, which was like the athletic dorm, all the athletes, they came out of nowhere with their own routine, and they didn't really do any dancing, but they did all kind of acrobatics and stuff, and were flipping people and tossing girls here and backflips, and then this person did this, and so long story short, in the end, it was Cook got first place, Quad got second, and then my dorm got third. And so the girls at the Quad was so hurt that they lost because they thought they deserved to win because they were really, they pretty much, their argument was, well, we had choreography. Cook, all they did was flips and stunts. So it was a whole big beef. But the funniest thing, like Cook, they had me dying because the Quad had like a symbol where, how do I say it? All the dorms also had colors. The Quad's color was yellow, Drew's was green, Cook's was blue. And so the Quad used to make this like square shape with their hands, and that would be like the shout out to the Quad. And so the day after Cook had won all of ResFest, like Quad was really pissed about this crap. Like they were livid. I mean, folks were ready to fight. It was the end of friendships. Everybody who was on any Cook team for ResFest, they all changed their Facebook profile picture, and it was a picture of just like a black background with a yellow square with a sad face, and it said "You mad?" Like that crap. That mess was so funny. I don't know if I explained that for it to make sense to you guys, but hell, that mess. Oh, it was too funny. That was so funny. But okay, going back to sophomore year. So anyway, people took ResFest really serious because, I mean, folks would be up practicing until midnight, especially the step teams. The step show was probably the biggest event, followed by the dance. But step was really, really big. Like, it was serious because a lot of people, like I said, that was their opportunity to impress people if they wanted to get on with some of the Greek lines and stuff like that, because a lot of the Greek organizations were watching. So people took it super serious. So with this dance team my sophomore year, we had drama. And really, most of the drama wasn't even with the actual team. It was just with the 4 people in charge of the team, which was me. There was another choreographer. I'm gonna just call them person A. Like me and person A were really, really tight. And then there was person B and person C. And me and person A didn't really rock with person B and C on a lot of things because, in my opinion, I just think me and person A were the better dancers and we knew what we were doing. And then me, I was already cocky because I'm like, listen, I already get paid to do this. Like this is just a Tuesday for me. So what y'all want to do? And what used to get on my nerves was because person B and C were from like a really major metropolitan city. They used to rub that in my face because, I was from little old Spanaway, Washington. And I used to be like, okay, what does that have to do with anything? Michael Jackson was from Gary, Indiana. So what you saying? But we had so much drama between the 4 of us to the point where me and person A ended up getting demoted. I'm like, how did we get demoted after we made the whole routine? But okay. And so me and person A had to fall back a bit so person B and C could step in and do some stuff. And then they didn't really do a lot. And it wasn't because they sucked or anything like that. It was just schedules, classes, everybody's busy. So me and person A ended up falling right back into our position and calling the shots. But get into the actual dance team, like it was a great team. Everybody was really, really good. And then eventually the 4 of us, we ended up getting in a better space and we got along, and it wasn't even that serious anymore once we respected each other's plight. You know what I mean? And so we practiced late every day, and there were so many funny moments because the thing is, everybody knew I could jump really high, so I was supposed to be the guinea pig for all of the stunts and stuff. Any kind of crazy flip or something, it was supposed to be me to do it. And so they wanted to see how high I could jump because I could jump far. Like we had one stunt when we were practicing for one of the battles where they had like 8 people get on all 4s and then huddle up shoulder to shoulder to shoulder, and then I had to run and jump over all of them and then fall into some little routine we had. And so I cleared that. So then I remember one time they were like, we want to see how high you can go, and I'm like, listen, I can jump high, but like I don't want to like kill anybody just in case it goes wrong. Like, no, go ahead. So I remember they grabbed this one girl and they were holding her up, and I was supposed to jump straight over her. And I mean, I kept clearing her every time, but then they kept trying to see how much higher I could jump. And so then they had her up to, like, if I was standing up, she was probably to where, like, my neck was. And I was like, guys, I don't think I can make this one. Like, oh, Mike, you can do it. We believe in you. I'm like, okay. And mind you, this is like a week before the show. Okay. So I remember I ran. I just jumped. I closed my eyes. And I just felt like I almost cleared her, but I felt... Listen, I'm a size 12 shoe. That's what happened when you got long feet. It's like the end of my foot tipped the girl's leg, and then it was like it stopped me from going any higher. And then I fell straight on the girl. She fell straight down on the floor, and then the 2 that were holding her fell. It was like 4 of us in a pile, and I just knew somebody broke something. And so I just decided, I was like, let me just lay here and play dead for a minute, because if anything, they're gonna blame me if somebody's hurt. So I just laid there and played dead for like a minute, and then I realized everybody was good. I was like, okay, cool. I actually broke 3 toes and didn't even know it until like 5 months later when I went to get a physical. Had no idea. Yeah, so that was that. But yeah, with ResFest, so then when we actually got to the show, man, I mean, our routine was on point. Like, we knew we were gonna win this mess. Like, it wasn't even close because we just had so much diversity on the team. Like, you had pop and lockers, you had breakdancers, you had the girl from Chicago who could do all the footwork stuff, you had the kids from New York that could do all the New York stuff, you had people from, California that could do all the hyphy and all the clown dancing and all that. Like, we were set, and then the choreography was good, the music was good. I was like, we're about to eat this crap. We were hyped to get to this mess. And man, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Now, mind you, the night before, the step team had lost, so we were already pissed off about that mess. And so the environment was just already a mess because the other dorms were having issues and stuff. So it was already like a lot of animosity when the show started. And so, when it was time for us to perform, 2 or 3 groups had already performed before, and the main person who was really in charge of Res Fest for the whole dorm didn't want us to see the other routines. He was like, I don't want y'all to be distracted. Y'all gotta be in the zone. I'm like, okay, like, this is how deep it was. We were really taking this crap serious. And so we couldn't see the other routines. We could only hear them. And I'm like, okay, cool. And the crowd was like eating their stuff alive. And I'm like, okay, well, they're really gonna like ours if that's what they like, because all the other teams kept using the same music. We get out there, we're hyped. It's about to be a good, and I think it might have been like 1,500 people in the audience, maybe. We start performing, and it's really silent. Like, it's silent. The audience isn't making a lot of noise. I'm like, why are they so quiet? And what we didn't know was the audience couldn't hear our music. Something had went wrong with the sound right before we went on. And so literally the only people who could hear the music were us because we were on the stage performing. And I mean, we could barely hear it ourselves. It didn't seem that loud, because even when I was performing, I'm like, this music seems so low today, but I mean, we were still getting it. And then the silence low key started turning into boos, and I'm like, wait, are they booing us? Do they see how hard we're dancing? And I like, man, because the other thing is this: Howard plays no games when it comes to wanting to be entertained. They will boo any and everybody for any and everything. If you ever perform at anything related to Howard University, you better come with it, because if it isn't correct, you will be booed, okay? Like, Howard University students will boo Jesus, okay? Like, if the rapture were to come and Jesus came and snatched up a few people and left the rest of the people on the planet, they would still boo, like, oh, so you just gonna show up and take all my friends and not take me? Boo! What, Jesus? Boo! Like, that's literally how intense it is. Like, everybody knows Howard is one tough crowd. Howard is the same crowd that booed Kanye West when he was still up and coming and was trying to perform it at one of the events and got booed. Howard is the same crowd that threw that CD at Rhymefest's head. I don't know if y'all saw that on YouTube. He was performing. Somebody took his actual CD and threw it at his head while he was performing. Howard is a tough crowd. And so, they're doing all this booing. And then what made it worse is, right as the booing was getting really intense, there was a portion in routine where we dissed the other dorms. Because like I said, all the dorms had, different colors. So the Quad was yellow, Cook was blue, the Annex was purple, Meridian, we were red, Slow was orange, the Towers, I think, were black, Maze was white. I might have mixed those up, but anyway. So we're at this portion of the routine, and so now we have these different bandanas that are the different colors of the dorm, and we're doing this whole pop and lock tutting thing where we diss them. And in my head, I'm like, dang it, this of all the times to diss the other dorms, because they're already booing us. So then once they saw that we had their little flags that represented the colors of their dorms, and we're stepping on it and stuff, boo! Boo! Like, yo, it was like showtime at the Apollo. I just knew Sandman was coming out any minute now. And so eventually we did win the crowd over towards the end, and we did kind of finish strong, but man, I was like, God, it was painful. I'm like, I got booed again? Like, this is the second year in a row. And the worst part was, it wasn't like we sucked. That's what got me. It's like going to a Britney Spears concert, but you're blind. You know what I mean? Like, there's not going to be a lot going on vocally, and it's a visual show, but because you can't see anything, you probably won't enjoy yourself because you're not going to get a whole lot of musicality. And that's what it felt like, because and that's no diss to Britney, so y'all Britney fans don't even come in here trying to fight me, but that's what it felt like with the show, because the audience couldn't hear our music, and so they didn't know what we were doing. And so it was like, they were just like, nope, boo. And it's like, they knew that we had some music on. They knew we heard something, but they were like, nope, boo. And so it just killed me, because I was always so mad, because I was like, if they could have just heard the music and saw how everything had come together, we would have won that crap. It was no ifs, ands, or buts, because when I went back and saw the other groups that performed, I was like, oh, yeah, we would have won this. But the worst part is, they also had the dance competition set up like America's Best Dance Crew, that show that used to come on MTV. And so what they did was, after all the other, dorms had performed, they made us all go and stand under, on a stage under a light in the middle of the arena or the gymnasium thing. And if you stood under the light and the light stayed on, that means you went to the next round. If it turned off, that meant you were going home and you had to walk it out because that was the song that was jumping at the time. And so we had got in line, and like the first 2 dorms had went through and made it, and then the third dorm had went through and made it, and there was still like 4 dorms behind us. And I was like, wait a minute, there's no way they're gonna let all 4 dorms automatically go through and then just have the last 4 stay home, because they would have at least shuffled us up. So in my spirit, I'm like, yeah, we're about to get sent home. And so we go under there, we're standing under these lights. And by the way, if you follow me on YouTube, when I post the actual announcement saying that this podcast is out, the picture that I'm using is the picture literally seconds before the lights went out. So we're standing under these lights, my team, and mind you, they leave the lights on for like 10, 15 seconds. So my team, we all thought we made it through. So everybody's, yeah, high five, yeah. I'm the only one not celebrating because I'm like, no, this is about to turn off on us. I feel it right about now. And then I'll know where the lights went. Chip! And so it just went black, and the whole crowd goes, oh, oh, and it was the most humiliating experience. I was so hurt, and mind you, I was so pissed because in my head, because I was already teaching the other competition teams, and I was still getting my group ready for the state competition over on the other coast, and they're gonna be doing their thing in the Sun Dome with like 6,000 people. That was already in the back of my mind. Like, I can't even win this little competition. What's gonna happen when we get to state with my group? Man, that mess. I remember when we walked home. I walked straight home. I didn't even take the shuttle or nothing like that. I just went straight home. I didn't even see the rest of the show. I was so pissed off. And then I remember the other 2 captains that I had kind of been beefing with at the time, because they didn't perform with us. They just wanted to do like consulting. And then me and Person A were actually on the stage performing. They kind of just looked at us like, we told y'all. And oh, I was livid. And then you still had to go to class the next day, and everybody was going to talk about how your dorm sucked. Dang, did y'all see Meridian? They sucked. That was some bullshit. I don't know what that was about. And did you see when the lights turned off? And you just sitting there pissed off, trying to act like you can't hear the conversation going on behind you. Just, man, good old Howard. However, there was some good that came out of ResFest. In addition to the really good friendships that I made with some of the people from the team, the director of my dorm had noticed all of the work that I had been putting in, with ResFest. And at the time, I was actually trying to become a resident assistant the following year because, one, if you were a resident assistant at Howard University, your housing was free. And my mother at the time used to really work my nerves because she used to try to make me feel bad that I was at Howard. And she was like, it's just so expensive for you to go here. And, it's just, you're going to have to figure out something to help, pay for it because it's so much on us. And then the weird thing is every time I would go home, there was always a new addition to the house. Like anytime I went home for a spring break or a Christmas or Thanksgiving or something, the kitchen got remodeled. Now there were marble countertops. The kitchen floor got redone. It was marble kitchen floors. They built on another deck. My dad bought a boat. My mom went from a Mercedes to a Lexus to a Jaguar during the entire time that I was at Howard. They put a shower in the bathroom downstairs. They put hardwood floors in the house. They redid all the kitchen appliances. And I'm sitting here like, I used to go like, wait a minute, what kind of broke are y'all? Because every time I come home, the house don't look the same. And now you want me to be an RA? So anyway, I was trying to be a resident assistant because I wanted to help my parents out. And it seemed like a kind of a fun thing to do. And so I was like, okay, the director of the entire dorm has seen me, doing my work, so I have to really make sure I put in a good word. So at the time I had applied, because it was application season for people who wanted to be resident assistants. And so I had to really, really make sure that, I stayed out of trouble. So, it paid off in the end because I did become a resident assistant the following 2 years. But it was the funniest thing because while I was on that period where I didn't want to have my name caught up in any kind of scandal, all kind of stuff happened. First of all, there was this girl that lived down the hall, and I remember she was trying to sneak her boyfriend in. No, what was she trying to do? Her boyfriend was already in the dorm because our dorm had visitation, but you had to be out by midnight on weeknights and out by 2 a.m. on the weekend. And so one of these times, her boyfriend was there. She didn't want to have him, get out because we're all, we're young adults and we all have hormones and we want to do hormonal things. And so she was like, oh, I need a favor because you kind of look like my boyfriend. I have a plan. Like, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to sign my boyfriend out from visitation. Because, you know, the way that we would do visitation is, you know, the person who didn't live in the dorm would give the ID to the person at the front desk. And the person who they were visiting would give the ID to the front desk. And you'd put those two IDs in the little drawer, write their name down. And then when they would check out, you give them both their IDs. The person who didn't live in the dorm would leave. The other person would go on back upstairs. And so the plan was, I was gonna put on this big old hoodie and walk straight out the door and don't give eye contact as she would get the IDs back and pretend I was the boyfriend. And then, you know, I would just take the hoodie off and walk back inside like 5 minutes later and go on back to my room. And so we did it the first time, it worked. Second time, didn't work. And we got caught. And like, mind you, and it was a favor because she was gonna give me like $20 to do it. And I was like, okay, cool. And so the second time it didn't work. And I was like, dang, strike one. So then I was really trying to not get in no trouble. And then the worst thing is my RA, who ended up being like a friend later down the line, like the next year, lived next door to me. His room was exactly next door to mine. And so I used to always have music playing, and I'd always have people in my room. And so one time there was like 4 people in my room. We got the music playing. It's like a random Tuesday afternoon or something at like 4 p.m. or something. I don't know. No, it had to be the evening. It might have been like 6 or 7. Music playing and everything. And so we had moved from my room and we were standing in front of my door in the hallway because a lot of people used to just stand in the hall with their doors open and everything like that. And so everybody's outside of my door in the hallway except for one person who's still inside my room but right by the door. And we're laughing and joking and making all this noise. And out of nowhere, I hear the chain on my RA's door sliding, that little meaning, okay, he's about to open his door and tell us to shut up. And I didn't want to get no more trouble because I didn't want my name mixed up in anything because I wasn't trying to mess up my whole resident assistant opportunity. And so I heard that chain, like, whatchamacallit, slide across that door, and then I saw him twist that knob, and it was the funniest thing because the girl that was standing in my room, when I tell you I pushed her into the hallway and closed my door, and just as I closed the door, my RA came out like, yo, what's going on? It's so loud out here. Y'all need to this, that, and the third. And then my stupid behind, I'm gonna open my door back and try to act like my eyes were cracked. Hey, you guys, can you guys keep it down? I'm trying to sleep and it's really loud. Mind you, my music is still on blasting. All the lights in my room are on. And like, all of my friends in the hall were like, what? Like, they were in there dying like, Michael, you are so stupid. Oh my God. I was like, guys, I'm trying to sleep. I have a final that I need to study for. If you guys could just go downstairs to the lobby, that would be great. Like, that crap was hilarious. Meridian was just a really cool place to live if you were a sophomore because it was pretty much the pinnacle of your social life if you were a sophomore. Everybody who, you know, were in most of your classes most likely lived in Meridian because at this point you had people that would start living off campus or living in other dorms, but pretty much a lot of people were in Meridian, so there was always something to do. Whether it was 2 in the morning or whether it was Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m., there was always something going on. And then the dorm used to host events, so they would have random auctions where, you know, you could buy a date or something like that, or, you know, they have open mic nights, which were really, really cool. They had this music fraternity, Phi Mu Alpha, that would host, you know, open mic nights. And I mean, it would be like, you know, you'd have a full live band and you just tell them whatever song you're gonna try to sing, and, you know, they would play it. And I mean, it was really cool. I never had the confidence to participate, but I would just watch from the side. I was too scary. I was never a confident live singer, so I was too scared to do it. But I mean, it would be really cool to see that. You know, they would have, you know, different socials, you know, like a little DJ come in and do some music. One of the really cool things was they had Charles Whitfield from Hidden Beach Recordings come in. He actually came in like once a year, every year for like 2 years. And so Hidden Beach Recordings is the record label that Jill Scott used to be on, and Kindred the Family Soul. And so I remember he came in and hosted like an open mic night. He was just looking for talent. He was looking for people to join like his promo team and everything. And so, you know, I was in there trying to connect with that man. But I think I might have insulted him a little bit because I remember he was talking about Jill Scott's The Real Thing album and how it wasn't selling as well as the first two. And I remember my question was, well, you know, do you think that maybe because y'all chose maybe the wrong singles is probably why it's not catching on? Because I had said, in my opinion, when I think of Jill Scott, I really just think of like love and really some music that makes you just feel good and euphoric. And I was like, you guys, the first single that y'all chose for this album was Hate on Me, which is not really something that you'd want to hear Jill sing about. And then you followed it up with the song My Love. And I'm like, there were better songs on the album like Crown Royal and Come See Me and All I and I Just Want to Be Loved. And like, I thought I was making a point. He was looking at me so sideways like, do you run a record label? Like, that's what he wanted to say. But actually, he was really cool, and he actually ended up remembering me and everything like that. And then every following year when he would come, he'd always like look for me to help to try to get people to, you know, come and participate. So that was like my first taste of the music industry. I was like, yeah, you know, I work with Charles Whitfield with Hidden Beach Recordings. I'm just 10 people away from 6 degrees of separation from Jill Scott. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, she's in my circle. And so there was just a bunch of really cool things that would happen. And then the funniest thing, I really liked my floor because I stayed on the 8th floor, and a lot of really cool people were on my floor. We used to always have these really big music debates. It would be the best arguments. Like, this was the time, I remember Jennifer Hudson was really jumping at the time because, you know, she did the Dreamgirls, and I remember there was this big argument about who was better between Whitney Houston and Jennifer Hudson, and like people... these arguments would be so intense. And mind you, it wasn't just like music heads. It would be the most random, hardcore, shoot 'em up, stab you in the throat Negroes in this argument as well. Like, dude, are you serious? No, Whitney Houston is the voice. What's wrong with you? Jennifer Hudson just came out. Like, they would go in these arguments. And then I think one of the best arguments we ever had, and I know I won. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We had a Michael versus Janet, who has the better choreography argument. And I'm sorry, I love Michael Jackson. He is one of the greatest of all time. But I've always said that his sister Janet has a more diverse catalog of choreography based on the music videos that they had. But in Michael's defense, because Michael Jackson's peak was pretty much because Michael wasn't doing as much in the 90s because he was kind of really living his life and people were so busy always trying to tear him down, he ain't had time for nobody. Janet was really milking her craft and all. And I always just felt that Janet always had better routines. I didn't say she was a better dancer than Michael. I just thought she had better routines. And I mean, they were fighting me on this. It was like 10 on 1. I'm like, nope, I'm not having this. And it would be so random because this would be like a random 3 a.m. argument on a Tuesday. Like, this would be every day. Then it was like the Illuminati arguments and then the politics and the this and the that. And there was one kid who was really, really right-wing conservative, and he would want to cuss everybody out because we were all stupid and we were all Democrats according to him. And we all, like, it just was, there was always something going on. So my sophomore year was a lot of fun. I also got into a really, really good relationship. I'd say her name, but she and I aren't really on the best terms. But I met her there was a club called H2O, nightclub called H2O. And the coolest thing about her was that she was actually from Washington State. And so I was standing in a line and I was talking about something and I said the word university place. And like, she jumped in my conversation and was like, wait, university place, are you from Washington State? I'm like, yeah. And so from that moment we clicked and we had a really wonderful little relationship that ran into my junior year. I'll talk about how that crap ended when I talk about my junior year. But man, for the moment, it was a good moment in time. So, and then it helped because then I didn't have to have so many walks of shame. Because I'm not gonna lie, like my sophomore year, I was kind of trash. Like, I was low-key trash. I had many walks of shame walking back to the dorm at 4 and 5 in the morning. Don't ask what I was doing. It was terrible, hot mess. It's funny to look back on. But yeah, she was a really great girlfriend. Like, she kind of got me more centered. And I like that she had high expectations for me. Like, that's the thing about black women. You can say what you want, but like, black women, I think, are always going to be your most supportive person in your corner, especially if they love you. Like, they will put you in a position where they want you to be your best. And so whenever I was slacking, she would be like, no, you got to do better. Like, you're messing up. What are you doing? And she would always just trying to like make sure that, you know, if I was in the wrong, she wasn't too bashful to let me know. And then she would do it from a standpoint where it was like, and I'm doing this because I love you and I want you to like be great and everything like that. And mind you, we didn't go to the same school. She went to the University of Maryland College Park campus, which was maybe a 25-minute ride on the metro, and then she had an apartment further from the metro stop, so you would have to take the metro all the way to the little College Park station and then get on another bus to where she lived at. But that was a cool little situation, but we'll get to that another time. And then speaking of my floor again, and then like there was another guy in the dorm who I thought, it's kind of weird. You know how there's like some people who just almost remind you of yourself, like you're really similar but you're also different. Like, there was a guy, big Michael Jackson fan, and it used to be the funniest thing because one time, and it was funny because we were real similar. Like, he was a big Michael Jackson fan. I was more like the Janet. I like Michael as well. But we did a lot of similar things. Like, he does music, I do music. He did the acting, I do acting. I think he's probably better than me at all of it. But one day, he just randomly threw a random benefit concert in the hallway at 1 in the morning. It was the funniest thing. I'm in my bed asleep. You just hear this music. He done set his whole keyboard up. He got a backup singer and everything. And literally did a whole concert in the hallway until the RAs were like, shut it down, go to sleep. But those, like, stuff like that just makes you look back like, God, that was a really, really fun year. And mind you, sophomore year is not even my favorite year of college. It's my third favorite, because I think my junior year was my absolute favorite, and senior year was really good too. But like sophomore year, it just, there was a lot going on that year. It was a lot of fun, and I was still involved in the community as well. Like I was volunteering with an organization called Target Hope, and we would go and do different things in the community. I really liked when we would work with Bruce Monroe Elementary. We did this really cool thing where we did a human wax museum, and I was Frankie Lyman. You know Frankie Lyman. So you met someone who set you back on your heel. Goody goody. Like, so I was Frankie Lyman, and then another friend of mine was trying to put together a nonprofit called Molding Middle Minds that would focus on mentoring middle-aged youth, because, you know, or not middle-aged, but middle school-aged youth, because, you know, that's when they lose their minds and start acting crazy when they get to middle school. And so, but something happened with that. It just kind of fell through, but I was on board. And then, of course, I was still volunteering with the Boys and Girls Club, Kingman Boys and Girls Club, over there on, I think, 16th and Cochran. And that was fun until I had to be a chaperone at the dance one time. I was like, listen, all these kids are bigger than me. I don't know what y'all think I'm supposed to chaperone. I mean, them kids was fighting every 5 minutes and trying to pull them kids apart, and they all bigger than me. But anyway, Meridian was just, it was a great experience. And sophomore year was just a lot of fun in general. And then what made it even funnier was when my parents came to visit. Like, my parents came to visit for Thanksgiving. Then my mom saw my room and just went off, because she's like, I'm paying this much money and this is what your room looks like. Because my room was just a room, and it didn't have its own bathroom, but it did have a sink and a mirror, but no bathroom. And my mom thought she had paid for a bathroom, so she went there, went off. You don't even have a bathroom? Boy, you in here living in a closet. I told you about going to this school. But that was a funny trip, because that was the first time we ever heard my mom attempt to cuss. Like, that was the funniest mess. I think my little brother, he didn't want to tie his shoes. He wanted to wear his shoes without the laces tied or something. So her and my brother having this whole argument. She's like, I told you, you need to tie them shoes. And so my dad was like, you know, just let him wear his shoes. And so for some reason my mom got mad. I was like, what? You know what? I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna start doing whatever the hell I want. And like, me, my dad, and my brother just all looked at each other and was just like, she was so mad at us, because she really, like, she just knew that was gonna shake the table. Like, oh my God, mom just cussed. Because like I've said before, my mother's very religious. My mother does not use profanity. She don't listen to no music that has profanity. She don't watch nothing crazy. I mean, she does now, but back at that time, she was really, really religious. Like, she did not play. Like, she was, if you could think of Loretta Devine in all those movies where she's the antsy church lady, like in Kingdom Come, that was my mom. Like, that was her at the time. And so that mess, when she tried to cuss, that crap was so funny. We're like, Mom, how you gonna try to cuss somebody out and can't even do it right? And she was like, well, you know what? When you're anointed, the words don't even come out right. I'm like, oh, okay. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up because I don't want to talk to you guys' ears off. But yeah, sophomore year, much better experience at Howard. It really made up for freshman year. And I think by the time sophomore year had ended, I was really solidified in what I saw myself as far as my purpose, and, you know, knowing what it was I was going to eventually want to do. And so it just kind of helped to open the lane for a really good junior year. Senior year is another story. We'll get to it a few podcasts from now. But yeah, sophomore year, I loved Howard. It was great. It was awesome. You know, I met a lot of new people, met some really good friends. My grades were good. Social life was good. I was dating. Hey. And it was a lot. And I met a lot of lifelong friends who some I still talk to today, like literally as in 30 minutes before I made this podcast. And so it was just a really great experience. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Meridian is no longer a dorm. Actually, Howard, I think, leased it to some developer, and now it's like some luxury condos. But yes, everybody knows Meridian, that was the place to be at Howard. Everybody and their mom knew that. But anyway, I will see you guys in 2 Tuesdays from now. There may be a special episode after this. I'm going to Essence Fest, so I might try to do a special episode around that, hopefully. But anyway, I'm out. Until next time.